So we welcome you at this Enhanced Pledge Implementation Inclusive Governance meeting, the meeting of the Signatories National Focal Points, which is hosted by the governments of Germany, Italy, and United Arab Emirates, and co-chaired by Brazil and United Arab Emirates. So this first day is focusing on the pledge implementation inclusive governance. So we are really very excited to have you here. My name is Gulnara Rol. I am the chair of the Secretariat of the Cool Coalition. So we are very excited. So thank you so much for taking time to come here. We're really excited to have you, everybody in person. So we really hope that these 2 days, today as a day of the focal point meeting, and then tomorrow, really more of the operational day, will allow us to really look into in more depth into the implementation of the Global Cooling Pledge. We are really very honored by participation of the high-level representatives from the governments, signatories of the Global Cooling Pledge, but also our colleagues from international organizations and partner institutions. This is really shows, I mean, this full hall here really shows very well how important sustainable cooling is, how important this integrated approach that we're taking under the Global Cooling Pledge is. And this is really a very good platform, the Global Cooling Pledge, to discuss the implementation and to look what are the best practices and what are the solutions. So I would like to start by sincerely thanking our hosts, the government of Germany, the government of United Arab Emirates, Brazil for chairing it. And I also would like to extend our appreciation to the co-chairs of the Global Cooling Pledge, the United Arab Emirates and Brazil, for really driving us. So I think it's a very unique process where the government sincerely and with full energy driving this process to promote very high ambitions and very concrete actions to deliver on the pledge and to bring sustainable cooling in front of the global climate priorities. So today we have a very rich and action-oriented agenda, and with this, it is my great pleasure to introduce Mrs. Silke Karcher, who is the Deputy Director General of Circular Economy at the Federal Ministry for the Environment, Climate Action, Nature Conservation and Nuclear Safety of Germany. So please, Mrs. Karcher.
Distinguished focal points of the Global Cooling Pledge. On behalf of the Federal Ministry for the Environment, Climate Action, Nature Conservation and Nuclear Safety, I am really delighted to welcome you today to the first focal point conference of the signatory stage of the Global Cooling Pledge here in Bonn. Germany is really proud to co-host this important event together with the United Arab Emirates and with Italy in close cooperation with Brazil and UNEP. This first focal point meeting marks a decisive moment. Following the launch of the Global Cooling Pledge at COP28 in Dubai and its political anchoring at the high-level ministerial meeting in Baku, we are now moving from the pledge to the implementation. And that's the really important part. We all know global demand for cooling is rising rapidly. Temperatures are rising, and also people are getting more affluent and being able to afford air conditioning. So there's a steep increase in installations for cooling. And with the associated emissions and energy costs, this is a challenge. Already now, cooling is an essential part of everyday life, from cold chains for fresh food, the safe storage of vaccines and medicines, to air-conditioned workplaces and schools. Cooling can elevate productivity, protect entire cities from overheating. It's actually a social and a health issue as well. The triple strategy adopted in Dubai, passive cooling, super efficient technologies, and climate-friendly refrigerants, offers a concrete roadmap. our common objective is 68% reduction in emissions in the cooling sector by 2050, and that's a really ambitious target. Germany strongly supports a cooling policy that promotes the transformation of the sector in a socially just, climate and environmentally friendly way at national, European and international level. And let me add, I think we have to do that quickly because of what I just said, because of the rapid rise in installations and the rapid increase of climate change. To us, it is particularly relevant that we promote future-proven climate and environmentally friendly cooling technologies using natural refrigerant. That would be, for example, CO2 or propane, butane gas. Secondly, we would want to promote passive cooling, especially through nature-based solutions. That's especially important on the city level to prevent cities from overheating, for example. Thirdly, transition cooling towards circularity, for example, in cold change, commercial refrigeration, and air conditioning in buildings. And last but not least, to promote all that, integrate cooling in NDCs and adaptation strategies. We are also funding a large number of cooling-related international projects, for instance, via our International Climate Initiative. Cooling is more than just a technology. It's an interface between climate action, social participation, and economic modernization. And beyond technical fixes and innovations, low-tech measures like nature-based solutions and adapted architecture carry a significant potential for passive cooling. As you may know, the pressure from heat waves is also increasing in relatively cold countries like Germany, especially for vulnerable groups in our society. For the generation of my parents, cooling wasn't a problem. They were interested in keeping their houses warm in winter, and now we too have the challenge of keeping our homes and our workplaces cool in summer. We revisited our policies for energy-efficient cooling in buildings and for municipal heat protection, for example, by utilizing nature-based solutions to achieve natural cooling effects as part of our action program for natural climate protection. So bringing all the solutions together. Ladies and gentlemen, the Global Cooling Pledge is more than a declaration. It is a political offer for an action-oriented cooperation. It is also important that we ensure a governance that is fit for purpose. This is why we welcome the formation of an intergovernmental committee on cooling, the IGCC. With COP30, we have yet another decisive moment ahead of us to ensure cooling receives the attention it deserves. I'm really thankful to the Brazilian COP presidency for their determination on this issue. And I also want to thank all the focal points who are here today for their commitment. It is really important that this room is so full and you are all here to share this discussion. Germany is ready to play its part, and we look forward to the discussions in the coming 2 days. I wish you a very successful meeting, very good discussions in the large forum, but also in the corridors. Thank you very much.
With this, it is my pleasure to introduce the next speaker, Ahmed Al-Kabi, who is Assistant Undersecretary for Electricity, Water and Future Energy Sector at the Ministry of Energy and Infrastructure of the United Arab Emirates. So I would like to invite His Excellency Ahmed Al-Kabi to make his welcome remarks.
Your Excellencies, distinguished colleagues, friends, good morning. My distinguished co-chair His Excellency Adalberto Malouf, esteemed colleagues from Germany and Italy as fellow co-chairs, Dr. Silk Karcher, Deputy Director General Circular Economy at the Federal Ministry for the Environment, Climate Action, Nature Conservation and Nuclear Safety of Germany. Mr. Alessandro Geri, Director General, Ministry of Environment and Energy Security, Italy. Friends and colleagues from United Nations Environment Programme, honored focal point from signatory countries and value partners. On behalf of the United Arab Emirates, it is my great pleasure to welcome you to this first Global Calling Pledge Signatories Focal Point Meetings. As we gather here today in Bonn, we build upon the momentum created at COP28 in the United Arab Emirates, where the Global Calling Pledge was launched as the landmark commitment to address one of the most pressing challenges of our time. The reality of steamed heat is one of the United Arab Emirates understand deeply, and we recognize the urgent need for sustainable cooling solutions that protect our communities while safeguarding our planet. The journey from COP28 to today represents a remarkable progress in global climate diplomacy. With 72 countries and 80 non-state actors are committed to the Global Calling Pledge, we have established it to become a dedicated to reduce cooling-related emission while ensuring equitable access to sustainable cooling for all. The United Arab Emirates remains committed to advancing the implementation of the Global Calling Pledge, translating our shared vision into concrete actions and measurable results. The UAE is humbled to announce that we have integrated cooling and explicitly referred to the Global Calling Pledge in our NDC 3.0, demonstrating our national commitment to this critical area. The UAE's commitment to sustainable cooling is reflected in our national policies and international partnership. We have been leading on technology development for district cooling system and are ready to share our extensive experience and expertise in this regard with all signatory countries. Also, we are actively exploring passive cooling solution as an area for significant interest, recognizing their importance in reducing energy demand while maintaining thermal comfort. Through our investment in renewable energy efficiency and sustainable cooling technology, we are working to demonstrate the economic development and environmental stewardship can advance hand in hand. Today's meeting provides an essential opportunity to exchange our progress and challenges and practicalities of the pledge implementation. Looking ahead to COP30 in Brazil, this meeting provides an essential platform to shape our priorities and prepare for the second annual Global Cooling Pledge Ministerial. The UAE is pleased to put forward our proposal to agree on the term of reference for intergovernmental committee on cooling and formally adopt them at the COP30, at the COP30 second ministerial meeting. This represents an important step forward, ensuring inclusive governance and accountability as we collectively work to achieve our ambitious goal. As Henry Ford said, coming together is beginning, staying together is progress, and working together is success. The progress from COP28 to COP30 demonstrate a major success that is possible through the power of international collaboration in climate action. I extend my sincere appreciation to our co-hosts, Germany and Italy, and to all of you for your dedication to this very significant cause. The challenges of extreme heat and sustainable cooling demand our collective wisdom and resolve. Through the Global Cooling Pledge and the work we undertake here, we demonstrate the power of international collaboration in addressing the climate crisis by implementing commitment of the Global Cooling Pledge. The United Arab Emirates, together with Brazil as a co-chair, looks forward to 2 days of productive discussions that will advance our shared commitment to a cooler, more sustainable, and more equitable world. Thank you very much.
Unfortunately, Mr. Guerri will not be able to join us due to an unexpected government commitment. He sent his apologies and has asked me to deliver the speech on his behalf. It is a privilege to welcome you to this annual focal point meeting of the Global Cooling Pledge, which Italy is proud to co-host alongside Germany, the United Arab Emirates, and UNEP's Cool Coalition, and chaired by Brazil under its presidency of COP30. This gathering is not just a milestone. It is a commitment to accountability and a space to drive forward the implementation of one of the most consequential pledges for climate justice, resilience, and health. Italy joined the Global Cooling Pledge at COP28 because we understand what is at stake. We were also among the first to submit our 2024 Cooling Pledge progress report, highlighting our action to improve energy efficiency, scale up passive cooling, and phase down HFCs under the Kigali Amendment. We have now several instruments to promote the sustainable and smart cooling practices across the country. These include the National Cooling Action Plans, the Kigali implementation, and the HEAT National Plans. Those plans provide a framework for coordination and cooperation among stakeholders and government agencies, recognizes the cross-cutting nature of sustainability intervention in the cooling sector. All of them can play an incredible role also in the context of the NDCs. But today is not only about reporting, it is about raising our ambition and supporting each other to deliver results. At the multilateral level, Italy used its G7 presidency to elevate the importance of sustainable cooling. In Torino, G7 countries reaffirmed their ambition to systematically implement the Global Cooling Pledge and to strengthen relevant existing initiatives delivering sustainable cooling, both to reduce emissions and to enhance climate adaptations and resilience. Today, Italy is proud to say we are translating G7 commitment into action. Italy's Ministry of Environment and Energy Security is proud to support the launch of Enabling Pledge Implementation for Cooling, EPIC, a new facility developed in partnership with UNEP in the framework of the Cool Coalition. EPIC is designed to help countries move from pledge to plans to real investment, combining technical assistance and smart finance to scale sustainable cooling solutions. This is not a new journey. Italy and UNEP have worked hand in hand for over 20 years in unlocking finance to accelerate climate action, a partnership rooted in shared values, sustained by trust and driven by impact. That's why Italy's private sector is also stepping up, offering efficient technologies, smart systems, and scalable solutions ready for deployment, also thanks to the involvement of small, medium enterprises. EPIC is designed to support countries unlock finance to implement their global cooling pledge commitments, and today we call all partners to join us in backing these facilities and thank philanthropy for already having agreed to do so. Colleagues, today's meeting is an opportunity to shape the road ahead. With Brazil leadership toward COP30, we carry a shared responsibility to turn cooling pledge into a platform for real transformation, a pillar of climate mitigation and adaptation. Italy stands ready, not just to pledge, but to partner, not just to commit, but to co-invest, to innovate, to act. Because, as we say in Italy, united is strength. Let us move forward together. Thank you very much.
Big thanks to the Minister of Environment and Energy Security for this presentation and also for co-hosting this first meeting of the National Focal Points. It's my pleasure to give opening remarks to Mr. Martin Kraus, who is Director of the Climate Change Division at UNEP.
Thank you very much, Gulnara. Good morning, Excellencies, friends, colleagues. It's very nice to be here. I have 4 points to make. First one, in a rapidly warming world, the action on cooling is both an imperative, but it's also a gigantic business opportunity. Extreme heat is now a defining feature of the climate crisis. 2 years ago, when the coalition and the pledge was created, of course, extreme heat, warming was already an important issue, but over the last 2 years, we have seen that this is accelerating. You might be aware that there's a call to action on extreme heat by the Secretary General of the United Nations. There are 3 actions that we all can take and that we should take. And these have been mentioned here before this morning. Number 1, passive cooling in urban environments, in cities. Number 2, super efficient technologies. And number 3 is the phase out of HFCs and to accelerate, to have a faster phase out. These are 3 very concrete actions that we can take on the cooling front. And if we do, the potential, and I think we have heard this from Germany just now in the morning, that we can reduce by over 60% by 2050, 3.8 billion tons of CO2 equivalent emissions, and we can protect 3.5 billion people from extreme heat. We can at the same time, and somebody was mentioning, that there are social and economic benefits that come with action on cooling. And here is an interesting number. Consumers who have to pay electricity bills when it comes to switching on the air conditioner and so on, can save $1 trillion annually in electricity cost if we are going to move towards implementing and rolling out more energy efficient devices and technologies. My second point, the global cooling pledge is now entering into an implementation phase. The whole global climate dialogue, I believe, is moving from pledges and promises and ambitions into action and implementation, and so are we. Since COP28, 72 countries and 80 non-state actors have joined the Global Cooling Pledge, and the first global commitment to cut all cooling-related emissions while expanding sustainable access. At the COP29, 1 year later, we adopted the first Global Cooling Pledge progress report and also an implementation strategy that provides a clear pathway for integrating action across sectors and all levels of government. Now is the moment, and this meeting actually is that moment, where we are moving into implementation of the pledge. So this focal point meeting signals the shift from talking, from expressing ambition to implementation. The implementation needs to materialize in a way in coming up with sector strategies, coming up with policies, and coming up, most importantly, with a project pipeline that can be implemented in the countries. My point number 3, UNEP, and again, this was mentioned already, but I'm going to repeat it so that we all can absorb it and digest it. UNEP is going to launch a financing facility called EPIC, together with our partners, to accelerate the delivery, to do exactly what I just said, to create a pipeline of concrete projects that can be implemented and that can be financed. Because one of the big obstacles in getting to action is the upfront financing that is needed. And upfront financing means a mixture of different sources of maybe grants, maybe loans, maybe private sector investment, capital investments, and to create financing packages for our cooling agenda is very important. And that is why a financing facility is something that we believe, and I think all of us believe, is something very valuable, and this is what we are going to establish. Now my last point, point number 4. The upcoming COP, and hopefully also next week, the SB that is happening here in Bonn, is very important to anchor the sustainable cooling agenda in the global climate action and in the NDCs. You all know that many countries are still working very hard at the moment to come up with ambitious NDCs. And what we would like to see, ideally, is that cooling action on the 3 fronts that I have mentioned earlier is embedded in the NDCs, to give it a political chapeau and to anchor it in the development and sector policies in the countries. So that is very important, that cooling has a fixed place in global climate action and in the NDCs. And we hope that this meeting here today and tomorrow can help us to achieve that. So UNEP and the Cool Coalition, we remain committed to supporting the implementation through technical cooperation, coalition building, and also science-informed guidance. We know that the solutions exist, and we know that the need is urgent. Let us now deliver together. Thank you.
Great pleasure to be here with all of you. Thank you, Gunara, all the team, Lili, Ahmed, Vitor from Brazil for all the support. It's really good to be here with all of you, excellencies, colleagues, and friends. I would like first to welcome my colleague and say my esteemed co-chair, Ahmed Mohamed Al-Kabi from United Arab Emirates at COP28, where we launched the initiative. Also our colleagues here from Germany, from Italy, especially in the name of Dr. Silke Karcher, and all the focal points to the signatory countries. Well, I think it's undeniable for everybody, and we all know Brazil has been suffering a lot, the extreme weather events. I think all our countries have been, but extreme heat is probably one of the worst for us. Some places of Brazil are already 2 point something degrees over the historical. Even my hometown, where I come from, São Paulo State, we used to be the biggest producer of coffee in Brazil, and now we don't produce coffee anymore because of 1.5 increase in the temperature. Coffee doesn't pop anymore. So they only produce coffee a couple 100, 500 kilometers north in the mountains because of this 1.5, 2 degrees increase. And we know how much extreme heat will impact food security, affecting health, lives of the most vulnerable, increasing inequalities, especially in developing countries like ours, which still need a lot of new energy production, and heat will probably demand a lot of new air conditioners. Brazil has been seeing a big increase in the air conditioning use. So we know how challenging it is and why it's important for us to deal with the greenhouse gases and everything that cooling is trying to address. I would also acknowledge Italy's work on the G7 for the commitment to implement global cooling. I think it was very important that the communique from the Minister of Climate, Energy and Environment dealt with that. We also want to see this highlighted a lot in our COP30 presidency. We all believe that sustainable cooling will definitely be a solution, a tool that can address both climate mitigation and adaptation. And we want, of course, to try to go these solutions much beyond the climate agenda. Cooling can also be a tool for developing countries to connect with nature, to create corridors that would benefit biodiversity, ecosystem service, adaptation based on nature, the nature-based solution. So they can also be a tool to reduce inequality and guarantee that the most vulnerable have a dignified and production life. These are some of the reasons why we are so keen on having passive and nature-based cooling solution, which deploy all these co-benefits and multiplying the effects on the money. Just last week, President Lula opened our first tender and bid for 25 million for nature-based solution and passive cooling, sustainable construction things for cities. I know 25 million is not that much money, but at least it will be the first one that we are doing with cities and civil society organizations to try to create the momentum on that. We also know that the low global warming, high efficiency cooling solutions are extremely fundamental as part of this solution, because at the end we're still going to need to use a lot of cooling solutions to store vaccines, food production, and supplement this passive cooling will be very important for us. We know that working with passive will also save money, will reduce the energy we need. The deployment of this can also still enjoy outside, and our cities are much better. So right now we are having 2 years since the Global Cooling Pledge that was launched in Dubai at COP28, led by our esteemed co-chair countries here, United Arab Emirates. And as we approach COP30, this time in Brazil, we would like also to highlight this moment and place to move from the pledge to action. Cooling is definitely one of the biggest priorities for us at COP30. Well, it will probably be a priority at all the following COPs we have in the next years. But as we gather there, we want to discuss and focus a lot on implementation. That's how we believe we should move. So COP30 will have 4 dimensions: the high level, an action agenda, mobilization agenda, and the official negotiation. But after these 10 years of creating all the frameworks from the Paris Agreement, we really believe that COP30 should only be focusing on the implementation, on measuring, especially throughout the NDCs, see if we are doing right on the long term, if not, what we need to do better. I think it's important when we do this evaluation. Unfortunately, we might see that we are still far away from where we need. And the short-life climate pollutants, for sure, they are one of our best and easiest solution on the short term. You know, CO2, Paris Agreement is difficult. It's all about long term. But some of the short-life climate pollutant, they can be addressed at the short term, and they can really deliver good solutions for us. On the action agenda, COP30, we divided the GST, the Global Stocktake. And the Global Stocktake has 196 paragraphs. We divided in 40 different actions on mitigation, adaptation, means of implementation. We divided them in 6 axes, from energy, industry, transport, forest, water, biodiversity, agriculture, cities, infrastructure, resiliency. And we want to try to do a lot of the focus on the action agenda together with subnational government. For us, it's a great pleasure to have here my colleague from São Paulo, Brazilian biggest city, the city I did the university, I did my master, I lived it for more than 50 years, a city that has been leading the way. And in the case of Brazil, as most of our countries, 70% of emissions are in the hands of mayors. So they are the ones at the end that need to be involved, that need to deliver and implement everything we are doing. Not only on CO2, on methane, in our case, especially in Brazil, on the waste sector, but also creating the building codes, doing the incentives for sustainable construction. Everything comes from the hands of the mayors. So as part of COP30 Global Mutirão, as we call this collective action, we are going to focus a lot on the local leaders forum. We want to reinforce multilateralism throughout using the subnational diplomacy. And we want to try to connect much more climate action to people's life. We have to show everybody and that, you know, climate change is real, it's closer to them. Brazil is among the people throughout these international polls that people really understand how much they're suffering and they will be impacted by climate change. But at the end, it's not easy to translate that in actions that everybody would accept. So we have to do all these high-level plenaries with mayors and things, but translating this into people's life as fast as possible. So it's a great pleasure for us to be here, part of this process. I hope that throughout these next 2 days, we have this opportunity to shape what the implementation will look like, how the future could be moving from pledges to action. I think we have 2 very good opportunities, the Global Methane Pledge and the Cooling Pledge. Both of these pledges have a lot of stakeholders, a lot of countries. We are seeing other big developing countries also adding short-life climate pollutants into their NDCs. We just saw China doing this. And as we also do our global ethical, like the GST, we are doing a global ethical stocktake with President Lula and Secretary Gutierrez. We understand that there's a lot of things that are moving and some things that we can increase and further leverage the action in the short term. So I'm pretty positive that cooling will be one of these areas, not only for our event here and for the pledge, but also for COP30. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm Miwat Kuona from Zimbabwe, and Zimbabwe is also a signatory to the pledge. Just to kickstart, we really do appreciate the commitment and effort from the conveners and the parties. And I think it's important for us to acknowledge the need to move from pledges to progress. And that's what really makes the difference. And we are here to make sure that as a party, we also play our part to make sure that we reduce these emissions from HFCs. And yeah, so we are happy and we really do appreciate the effort that the Secretariat and the funding partners have done. Thank you.
I had a discussion just at coffee with Morris from Germany, and sorry to put you on the spot, but he shared some of the things that he's doing with his development of his strategy, and it's very well aligned with what we're doing, and it will help us to learn from others. So I think if there is opportunity for us to be able to discuss individually, it will very much help us. That's all I wanted to say, and thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, good morning, everybody, and on behalf of the Ministry of Environment of Cambodia and myself, I would like to extend our sincere gratitude to the government of Germany, Italy, and the UAE for co-hosting the first Global Pledge Signatory Focal Point Meeting and invite me to join this important meeting. Your dedication of advancing the objective of the Global Cooling Pledge is evident in the meticulous planning and generous hospitality extended to us. We also express our appreciation to Brazil and the UAE for co-chairing this vital gathering, providing the leadership and guidance necessary to steer our discussion. I do hope that this meeting will bring the delegate with more commitment and strengthen the collaboration among signatory focal point, and we look forward to productive delegation as well. We have worked together to shape the future. We would like to brief of the achievement of the Cambodia. Cambodia has been strong advocate to promote sustainable cooling globally, and being a part of 71 signatory of the Global Cooling Pledge at the COP28 in 2023. In this early 2023, Cambodia is implementing it and CAP with the project on the passive cooling strategy for sustainable development in Cambodia to integrate passive cooling strategy within Cambodia policy and practice through the collaboration with the UNEP, UNSCAP, ITC, Clean Coalition Collaboration, and EFC, for the Energy Foundation of China. Including this one, we have been like output, we established like policy recommendation in cooperation passive cooling strategy, including the building energy regulation, typology, technical analysis, compendium of passive cooling strategy, and a brief guidebook on PECS and the guideline for passive cooling strategy that will be under review, and we will send back to calculation later. And we also have demonstration of the PEC application in the pilot building. We designed charrette in Borai, we call Borai Jankari in Cambodia, and we have a local data building with the baseline and strategy on the site monitoring, and we have been conduct for 1 year on this one, and we have also conduct awareness program and capacity building for the large scale replication, including launching of community of practice, provision of series of workshop and technical training, including training for the trainer. And also we support for integration of NCAP into the Cambodia CCCSP 2024-2023, and the inclusion of greenhouse gas emission reduction from passive cooling strategy in the target for Cambodia national determined contribution, and this is 3.0 that we will submit to UNFCCC in July this year. That our short achievement for this one. Thank you very much. And also we don't forget the thank you for the Coal Coalition have been approached us in we established a national cooling action plan as a Lily here and her team here also. Thank you very much.
We appreciate the efforts of UNEP to invite Iraq to participate in these events, and we look forward to continuous this cooperation in cooling issues. The government of Iraq is very interested to integrate the cooling issues into its national climate strategies. Especially, Iraq is currently working to update the NDC, and we commitment to submit this document in this years. We are excited to ensure the cooling issues are comprehensively addressed in these important documents. Currently, in collaborating with the CCAC Iraq, working to assessment the level of ambitions for mitigation short-lived climate pollutants to include it in these documents. Additionally, several projects related to these topics are submitted to CCAC and UNEP to implementing in the next years. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Iraq. Thank you again, everyone, and thank you, UNEP Coalition Secretariat, for their partnership in this journey. The partnership exactly was because we need to use their platform, the international platform for sustainable cooling, so we can move from the commitment to the implementation. So COP29 Ministerial showed a lot of progress and shared commitment. So here I will invite Lily Ricci, the head of the Cool Coalition Secretariat at UNEP, to share a bit on the history of the Global Cooling Pledge and how countries are progressing in its implementation.
So if the slides are moving, I think I wanted to start with just taking us back in our collective journey to 2019, where we actually, back then, cooling was really a blind spot in climate action. I think it was Fatih Birol, the head of the International Energy Agency, who famously said that cooling is a blind spot in the energy transition and in climate. Despite its role in health, in food systems and resilience, it really was not, there was no coordinated push on to address growing cooling demand while meeting climate and development objectives. And there was a lot of different organizations and working on cooling, working on cold chain, working on space cooling, working on different parts of the cooling solutions, but no common science, and as I said, no coordinated push. So we came together, a number of partners. Some of them are here today in the room. World Bank, C4All, GIZ, IRENA, many different partners came together to form the coalition, to be able to support countries in taking a comprehensive approach to cooling and being able to deliver simultaneously on the Paris Agreement, the SDGs, and the Kigali Amendment. And for the first time, we were collectively able to elevate cooling at the Climate Action Summit of the Secretary General in 2019, where the coalition and cooling actually became recognized as a transformative initiative for climate. So today, we are now a growing global platform. We have about 250 members with 80 countries participating together, and we're operating in 3 connected pillars together, which is advocacy, so really creating the shared narrative to make the case for acting on cooling and raising global ambition, and the science, which is really about not just sharing knowledge between countries and experts, but creating consensus-based science and tools, building on the collective expertise of the cooling community. And then, of course, action. So as we heard today, both through joint technical assistance, like the facility that we've launched, but also through catalytic projects where we implement the science that's being developed. And it's a strong connected ecosystem where many countries and stakeholders can come together in the different working groups, and that's where what we did when we launched the coalition was set up a number of different working groups where experts can come together based on where they bring value, based on where they're working, and join forces on developing the science, on developing joint technical assistance programs and doing advocacy. As you can see, we have 10 working groups at the moment, which many of you are participating in. For example, I know several of you worked on the NDC guide together. Many countries here participated there on that and are working to enhance their NDCs. Cambodia just spoke about the National Cooling Action Plans that was created in a working group together with building on the experience of countries and different technical development partners and so on. So in 2022, the UAE approached us and sort of with a challenge, which was how can we leverage the existing work and the momentum that had been built through our collective platform of the coalition to really elevate the action on cooling within the Paris Agreement discussions, and how we can do that through and during the COP28 presidency. And so that led to a launch of a partnership between the COP28 presidency and UNEP and the Cool Coalition to really try to work together over that year with the partners of the coalition, with the countries, to create transformative action at COP28. But what we realized with this was actually there were no targets around which we could mobilize that were aligned to the Paris Agreement on cooling. There'd been a lot of science developed, but the science was on, let's say, about the energy impact of cooling, or it was just on the space cooling side, or it was just on the HFCs. But there was nothing that was really comprehensive telling us how do we get to near zero emissions or net zero emissions by 2050 in the cooling sector, aligning with Paris Agreement, while also delivering on the SDGs, right? Which means providing access to everybody to protect their livelihoods, food systems, health, etc. And so we built together in the coalition, previous slide, the science that is the basis for the pledge. And what's important here to see is this middle section. So the blue bar shows you we go to 6.1 billion tons of CO2 emissions by 2050 without any more action on policy. But if you actually combine passive cooling with high energy efficiency improvements and a faster action on HFCs, then we have over 60% of emissions being cut by 2050. That's the main thing to take away from this slide. Those three actions that you heard people talk about today can lead to the 60% emissions, while also providing access to all. Of course, as you heard already from Martin and from other speakers today, this then translates into trillions of dollars of savings in electricity, in peak load demand reduction, and access. And then what we saw was actually great. So now we did the science, we can build targets, but actually, and it was really important to do that because only a quarter of countries actually are taking action on these three areas. So we weren't on a path to achieving, near zero on cooling emission targets. And that then became the basis for the commitments that we have seen in the Global Cooling Pledge, both the roadmap of policy commitments on how to act on each of these three areas, so you'll see all the different policy targets, as well as the collective target of emissions to cut 60% by 2050 and strengthen access for cooling to all. But what's important is in this journey, we didn't only just do the science, we then worked together with many of you here to do consultations, and we spoke and we discussed and we made sure that the science was also based on, was also consultative, based on country experiences. And so those targets were discussed at multiple regional fora, in the G20, in different regional commission consultations, in the Bonn SBs, and so on and so forth. And this was with the COP presidency and with some champion countries and partners. Over 100 consultations were undertaken. And then the UAE launched a contact group, which is what will be discussed later today, with a number of countries who advised on, negotiated on those targets, who were early supporters. And together we were then able to reach this launch of the Global Cooling Pledge with 72 countries at the COP. So it's really remarkable what we were able to do together on this journey. And part of the reason that made this possible is also the unique structure of the coalition. So it bridges two worlds. Basically, on the left, what you see is the multi-stakeholder governance, right? Which is this ecosystem of partners, which everybody wants to benefit from. The technology providers, the finance institutions, the development partners. And then on the right side is sort of where you have the governments, and that's, the governments can benefit from the multi-stakeholder action that's in the coalition that brings that expertise and deployment action. But that is not, but they have an independent governance. So they can leverage the coalition, but not be governed by the multi-stakeholder platform. And that is what really allowed for this global cooling pledge, I think, to come to fruition. Next slide. So just to say, as we heard earlier this morning, we have seen remarkable progress in just 18 months. This is actually progress we reported on at the ministerial in COP29. What you see here is that countries are really putting cooling into their national development plans, into their climate plans, into NDCs. There's a lot of political commitment to cooling among the signatories. So this is very encouraging, and I'm sure it will be increasing towards Belém. Then when you come to minimum energy performance standards, it's important, as we discussed today, yes, there's a lot of action on minimum energy performance standards, but they're mainly for residential air conditioners and more small scale, and not really for the commercial equipment. So we need to scale that up. And then what's important is while countries are acting on energy efficiency, what you see on the right is they're also acting fast on HFC phase downs, but our data shows that there's only 10 pledge signatories that actually included efficiency into their HFC phase down plans. So this integration is still missing. And there's a lot of work still to be done on passive cooling. I think there's not that many countries yet reporting on implementation of passive cooling or renewable energy applications in remote or off-grid areas. So this is to tell us that we're making great progress. The commitment is there, as you see in the national plans, but as we're going to discuss today, we have a lot to do on implementation. And one other interesting trend to note that we're seeing is countries are also supporting cities to integrate cooling into heat action plans and support pledge implementation, and especially to adapt to extreme heat. As we heard from His Excellency at Alberto earlier today, this is definitely becoming a priority for many countries. We have Tamil Nadu here with us from India, and they're representing, I think, 120 million people. So, we have also Sao Paulo state here with us. So a lot of these states are taking actions to implement some of the pledge agreements to tackle extreme heat, and also working with their national governments to accelerate implementation. And so this is an example of how in Tamil Nadu, after doing a heat assessment and a heat plan, then there's been a deployment of projects on the ground in Chennai, in the city, in the state, and many other cities are following suit, for example, on cool roofs. So with that, I hope I've given you a bit of a glimpse of the history and how we got to where we are. And just also to say we have a great moment to celebrate progress and also to accelerate implementation, which is what we're here to discuss today. I think you'll hear much more about EPIC and other implementation opportunities in the next session, and also the strengthened governance to help us deliver this implementation, and of course, working together with the COP presidency to strengthen further engagement towards COP30. So I think we've built a really strong foundation, and now it's time to scale action, and I really couldn't think of a more committed group of people than this coalition of the willing around the table. So thank you so much for that, and with that, I'll hand back over to you, Moza.
So if there is anyone wants to raise any question or clarification, we'll give you a couple of minutes. Otherwise, we will move to, I will move to Gulnara again.
Yes, thank you so much, Moses. So, indeed, we already heard today from Zimbabwe, UK, Cambodia, Iraq on the progress with implementation. We spoke about the history. So we indeed wanted to ask if, what Lily presented about the history, but also approaches of implementation. If you have any questions or clarifications right now, before we adjourn for the coffee break. Because we still have the full day today and tomorrow. But if no any questions or comments at the moment, so we would like to adjourn right now for coffee break, for the break until 11. So we would like to invite you to come back exactly to 11. So we hope during coffee break it will be possible opportunity to have more informal exchange on the topic. And big thanks, Moza, for moderations, and big thanks to all the speakers and Lily for this morning session.